What's up, fantasy fans and book readers? I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I have one question for you. Are you the type of reader to read one series at a time, read each book back to back, or are you a serial series starter and you'll just continuously read book ones before reading any sequels? Because that's what I do. I love starting a series. I also love continuing a series, but I somehow find myself continually starting new series. Literally in the last week, I've started 3 new series. What is my problem? How many of you guys are the same? There's just too many delicious fantasy flavors out there to just read one series at a time. How do you guys do it? Don't you just love switching from series to series, style to style? I don't know about you guys, but I love to do that. So today we're going to go through all the series that I'm in the middle of right now and my excitement levels to continue the series. So before we go any further, comment down below how many series you yourself are in the middle of and what series you're most excited to start next. While you're down there, make sure you like the video. It's super helpful, guys. Subscribe. We talk fun book fantasy things here. Join the community. And with that, let's jump into the fantasy series that I've read all the books that we currently have, and I'm waiting on the next book. So these are the ones that I'm not to blame because they're literally not finished. So we'll start off easy. So the first one I've got is the Stormlight Archive. I've read this all once. I'm halfway through my reread. And who isn't excited for Wind and Truth? I'll give Wind and Truth B grade excitement levels. I'm super hyped on it, but I've still got 2 massive books to reread before book 5 comes out. I know I'm going to love it, but with me, with Stormlight, when I'm reading it, it's the best thing ever. But as soon as I put it down, I'm like, was it as good as I remember? And then I read a Kaladin chapter and I'm in tears and I'm loving it again. So my excitement for Stormlight is when I'm in the world, but because the world is so creative, I'm not as hyped about it when I'm not in the world. I don't know if you guys are the same, but for me, if a series is more low fantasy, the world is more similar to our own, I can recall that better and re-immerse myself in that world without having to read it. But with like Sanderson and Sun Eater series that are so out there, I really have to be in it to remember how good it is. So while we're talking about Sun Eater, how excited am I for book 7 to come out? Super excited. We'll give that a B+, A- level of excitement for Sun Eater. Disquiet Gods was my second least favorite book of the series, but I think something special is going to happen in book 7, and I'm super excited for that. So sticking with the space operas, Red Rising. I've read all 6. I am so keen on Red God. I read the final 3 books of Red Rising so quickly that I can barely remember them. I know what happens, but they're all such a blur. I really need to reread these books to just give myself a refresher. It was a while ago. I read them quickly. So we'll give my excitement levels an A-, but upon reread, I'm expecting it to be an A+. All right, so we're predicting an A+ for Red Rising. So let's bring things down a bit. What's the series I've read up to, but I'm not sure I'll continue? That would be the Fallen Gods Trilogy by Hannah Kaner. I read the first book, Godkiller. It was good. The cover's lovely. And it was good modern fantasy, but there's nothing really pulling me in. I read the second book, Sunbringer, and it was fine. It was a story. It had Witcher vibes, but I probably won't continue this one and finish off the series. So we'll go D-level excitement. So let's turn things back up a bit. What am I most excited for? What is my A+++ excitement level book? It's going to be the conclusion to the Empire of the Vampire trilogy. I don't know about you guys, but this series is one of my favorite of all time. It's already a top 3 series of all time for me, and I'm assuming with the conclusion, it'll cement itself in that spot. He's my favorite writer. His prose is just phenomenal. His prose just brings his world alive, and the dialogue in this series is my favorite dialogue I've ever read. Just so witty, the banter's great, I love it. And keeping the hype really high, The Bound and the Broken by Ryan Cahill. I am so keen for Of Empires and Dust, book 4 of The Bound and the Broken. There's going to be one more book in the series after that one. Of War and Ruin was 1,400 pages of bliss. This series is a combination of The Faithful and the Fallen and The Inheritance Cycle, which are 2 of my favorite series. So come on, it's phenomenal. You need to check it out. It's dragons, it's rebellion, lovely stuff. And of course, we can't talk about books I'm excited for if we can't talk about the Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne, which has The Fury of the Gods coming out in October. We gave Empire of the Vampire book 3 an A++. Fury of the Gods is an A++. This book is the book that started this whole channel and reignited my love for reading. In 2022, I read the Witcher books, all 5 of them. It took me about 6 months to go through, and they were good. I was reading a little bit at night. But after finishing those 5 books, I went back to the bookstore and I saw this cover and I was like, that's my next read. I picked it up, read it in a week, which is something I hadn't done since I'd read like the A Song of Ice and Fire books. I loved it. I went back to the shop, picked up Mistborn, and I haven't stopped reading since. All right, so that was the short part of the video. Going on series I'm up to date on. Now, this is all the series I'm in the middle of that have multiple books for me to catch up on. So we'll go through this in ascending order of how many books I have to read to finish off the series, and we'll start giving some grades. So firstly, we have the Great Dune Trilogy. I've read the first 2 books, Dune, Dune Messiah, and I just haven't read Children of Dune yet. And it's not even that much of a book. It's like there's like that much or something would be Children of Dune. It's a very small read. It's like 17 hours of audio. I just need to dive into it. I just know how much of my brain I need to use to read Children of Dune, and it's going to be a lot. I'm really bad at committing to big brain reads. So we'll give my Dune excitement levels a C. I will read it. I want to read it, but there's no extra incentive above that. So we'll just go, it's a solid C. It passes. It will get finished, but I don't know when. Another series I only have 1 book to go on is The Band by Nicholas Eames. I read book 1 at the start of this month. So in the last week, it's not 3 series I've started, it's 4 series I've started. There's only 1 book to go in this. It's Bloody Rose. And this was very easy to read, very easy to listen to, but I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't in the mood for light, easy humor with 0 stakes in a story, with just a ton of crazy D&D world building and just questing around. This has a time and a place. This is well written. This is a good book, but you've got to be in the mood for it. So I'm giving my excitement levels to continue The Band a D+, C-. I might do it, I might not. I'm undecided. I know when people talk about this series, they hype up book 1 more than book 2, but they still do say book 2 is good. And I think I know what I'm getting with book 2. So if I have the mood to read it, I might. But it doesn't feel like a serious read because it just felt like there was no stakes in book 1. So why would I continue the series? And the one other series that I have that I've only got 1 book left to read on is Tim Fasciola's trilogy, A Vengeful Realm. I've read the first 2 books in this one. I read the second book in this one, The Breaker of Chains, just last week, and really strong. This is a very Roman-inspired world, a very politically driven fantasy. We've got gods messing with the political players. I've got a chosen one who's trying to free the slaves. And yeah, this is just a really fun, compelling read, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. The cover for book 3 is stunning, and I'll give this one a B- level of excitement. I'm excited to finish off the trilogy, and it's definitely a series I'd recommend. The next series we'll talk about is one I just finished last night, and that's the Gael Saga. So I just finished book 1, The Children of Gods and Fighting Men, and I absolutely loved this book. I rated it a 4.5 out of 5. It felt like The Last Kingdom, but with better characters, and there's some magic in it, which comes from Irish mythology, as this is a book set in late 10th century Ireland, following like Vikings and Irish kings kind of going to war, trying to unite the country, try to keep their own peace, trying to keep their own kingdom. Very interesting, very politically driven. I absolutely loved it. And there's currently only 1 more book out, but book 3 is coming out so soon that I'm just counting this as 2 books to go. And this one is an A level of excitement. I'm continuing this as soon as possible. Going back to the start, I completely missed one. I'm fully up to date on The Hierarchy by James Islington. I read The Will of the Many. I really enjoyed it. I was a little irked by the main character who kept saying his main motivation was to survive, but he kept putting himself in dangerous situations. It took away from every other aspect of the book, which was phenomenally done. The world building, the plot, the writing style, everything else was fantastic. I got annoyed by the character keep saying his main motivation is survival when he keeps putting himself in the most dangerous possible situations. One of my clients who I work with was telling me that he just thinks Viss is an unreliable narrator. He's like, he probably just wants to actually like end it all and just go out in a blaze of glory. But he doesn't say that, so I kind of get that, but it ruined my experience. So we'll give my excitement level for continuing The Hierarchy a C. I'll continue it, but I don't have the same hype that everyone else does for the Strength of the Few, which I'm kind of disappointed with. I love how much hype this book's getting, and I want to be in on the hype. Another trilogy I started last month was the Farseer trilogy with Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. And this is a book 1 of a trilogy, but it's also book 1 of the Realm of the Elderlings, which is 16 books. So we'll put it right here in the video. Why not? Assassin's Apprentice was an utter delight. It was super cozy. It was super fun. It reminded me so much of Ranger's Apprentice, which is the series that got me reading growing up. and I am giving this an A-level excitement. I cannot wait to continue. This just is nice, slow, classic fantasy, very character-driven, very politically driven, and it just, being in this world just feels cozy. I know there's a ton of traumas and sad things to come, but the world just feels classic and cozy to me. I don't know if anyone agrees with that opinion, but that doesn't matter. I agree with that opinion. Now, I'm in the middle of two of Andy Peliquin's series. So a couple months ago, I started Darkblade Assassin, which is like John Wick meets fantasy. So it's just a half-demon assassin, just going about his business, just killing bunches of people, going on little side missions, getting swept up into things bigger than himself, and just taking on the world. It's fun. It's easy to read. Andy's writing is just so fun and quick. My only holdback with this is Andy's written a lot of books that I really want to get to. And so I'll give my Darkblade continuation grade a B-, just because I only got 2 books left in his DragonBlood Assassin series, which I'll give a B grade on wanting to continue. And it gives off a lot of similar vibes as it does to Darkblade, but the books are a little shorter and there's 2 POVs. So we've got 2 assassins, one works for the king, one's a bit of a vigilante. They start on different missions, so they get wound up. And these stories in particular happen very fast. I did them on audiobook where we've got Michael Kramer and Kate Redding. They go back and forth each chapter for each person's POV, and each book is kind of like a season of 24. If you remember that TV show where the whole season is based around just 24 hours, so you're with like the character all day pretty much. Very similar with DragonBlood Assassin, but you could call it 48 rather than 24, and each book leads into the next. So all the books take place over a very short period of time, and they're very compelling. It's very fun reading. As I've said way too many times before, when I don't feel like reading, I don't feel like using my brain very much, I pick up an Andy Peliquin book. The writing style is easy to pick up, and it's just fun, dark assassin fantasy, except for the first book in the Queen of Thieves trilogy. That is incredibly dark and crushing, so be careful when you pick that one up. There is some dark scenes in that. But everything else Andy does, just fun, dark fantasy, just assassiny, heist theme sort of stuff that's lovely. All right, we're almost up to series where I have 3 books left, but one I've got 2.5 in, and that's the Wolf Den Trilogy by L.D. Harper, which I started this morning. I'm already halfway through book 1, and this is a historical fiction set in Pompeii, following a slave girl whose mother sold her into slavery when her father died and they could no longer live the lifestyle they were living. So she's very educated, she's very smart, but unfortunately for her, she was sold to a brothel and now she has to do that sort of work. But she's using her brain, she's using her education to try and find other ways to make her own money so she can try to get out of this situation. This is a very dark, sad, oppressing read, but it's also really interesting seeing how she's trying to overcome this. And I'm really starting to get into the historical fiction. I think I've got the historical fiction bug. I just want to read more of it. So this one is an A level of excitement. I'm really hyped to continue the Wolf Den Trilogy by L.D. Harper. Now, switching tone to something much lighter and much easier to read. Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinnerman. I believe there's currently 6 books out with the 7th on the way. I could be wrong. It could be the 8th book almost on the way. But either way, this is a lit RPG read. We are following someone from 2020 who just went outside to get his girlfriend's cat, and everybody inside just got smushed. He's basically told, aliens are here. You need to go into this 18-level dungeon. It's a game show. You get video game abilities, and you need to find a way to survive. The cat comes in there with him, gets talking abilities. She's super smart, fun, and it's Carl and his cat Donut, and they're just trying to survive this wacky alien game show that is dark, that's super dark, but it's also fun because the author injects a lot of humor into it. So you get a really fun, compelling read where you get levels and a really clear mission, and there's politics going on outside of the game show that make you even more intrigued. Carl's not just going to try to survive this dungeon, he's going to try to do something to these aliens. So super intriguing read, super fun. This is another A- level excitement. I'm super excited to continue Dungeon Crawler Carl. So that's all the series that I am close to finishing. All the rest we have to talk about, I have a very, very long way to go. So let's talk Malazan, Book with the Fallen. I've read 2 books of Malazan so far, and I quite enjoyed them. I like Stephen's writing style. I like the way he has lots of separate plots, lines that come together. It's very Sanderson-esque, but just on a bigger scale. His stories are very compelling. They're always very interesting. You always want to know what happens next. They're big chapters. They're very interesting. but they take a lot of brain power, and there's 8 books to go. So I'll give my excitement level a C+. I want to see where it goes, but it's daunting with how much brain power the last 8 books are going to take to read. And in a similar fashion, let's talk Jenny Wirt's The Wars of Light and Shadow, because she is a very similar writing style to Stephen Erikson, but a lot more classic and linear feel to her stories, where it feels like a combination of Malazan in The Wheel of Time. And I've got 10 books to go in The Wars of Light and Shadow, but we'll give it a C++ excitement level. I really want to dive back into Jenny's world, but there's no more audiobooks. There's only an audiobook for book 1 of this series, so I just don't know how I'm going to find the time to read 10 of these massive books when I do most of my reading by audio at the moment. I go through stages where I like to read a lot. At the moment, I'm just in a big audio phase. So we'll go C++. You can call that a B- if you want, but I'm not ready to move it up to the B in my brain. Another massive series, but a massive series that is compiled of small books, is the Elric Saga by Michael Moorcock. I've read 1.5 of these stories, which is that much of a book. Like, there was a complete story in here. There's like 3 or 4 books in this one book, and there's 3 of these editions. I liked this, and I will continue and read them all. And these stories do give me a bit of a vibe of Andy Peliquin's books, where it's just fun, easy reading. This one is a little bit more questy than Peliquin's books, where it's just like, all right, we went here, and then we did this thing, and then we did that thing, and then we went to that thing, to this thing. So it's very, very simple. So definitely not like too similar to Andy's, because of that same dark fantasy vibe, and we're just a man on a mission doing things. So it's fun reading, but I'm not overly compelled to keep going. So we'll go C level excitement, but it's in that same C+ sort of realm that Malazan is. All right, so then getting to the Sanderson of it all, I've read a good amount of Cosmere, but I haven't read it all. I am yet to read Elantris and Tress and probably some other books. I can't think of any other Cosmere books right now. And that might be all of the novels. I haven't read the White Sands stuff and that. So I might only have the 2 books to go in the Cosmere. Kind of crazy to think about, because Sanderson has so many books. And my excitement level to continue the Cosmere is going down by the day. It's a solid C at the moment. I know I want to read Elantris. I know one of you out there loves it more than anything else in the Cosmere, and you're the one person that has me actually excited to read Elantris. And I know Tress will be okay, but I'm just not that hyped on Sanderson at the moment. He's just got so many books, and you just get a little bit of Sanderson burnout. So keeping with book universes like the Cosmere, I've also read a bit of Discworld recently. I've got like 50 books or so to go in the Discworld universe, but I love reading Discworld. It's been fun. I don't know which Discworld I'll read next. I have read the first book in the City Watch series, so I might go and continue Men at Arms, but I also might just go to the start and read Colour of Magic. I'm not sure what I'll do. I'll just see how I feel when I'm in the mood for my next Terry Pratchett novel. So I'll just go C-level excitement for Terry Pratchett too. And with that, guys, we only have one more series left, and that's He Who Fights with Monsters by Sherdelin. I'm a third of the way into book 1. This is a lit RPG story following an Australian from Melbourne who wakes up in another world and has somehow been given some sort of like video game sort of features to help him make his way in this world, where he becomes an adventurer and has to fight monsters. This is just super easy to listen to and just fun to read. We'll give this a B grade for excitement level to continue. I know this is going to be a fun one, and it's just easy listening. Sometimes it's just good to zone out and just have something super chill, and having an Australian narrator, Australian in the book, it's very much a very coming home sort of read. So with that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know which series you think I have started that I need to continue the most. What series do you want to hear more about? And thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a fantastic day.